Hi there, everybody. My name is Lee McQueen, and I'm weighing in once more on this year's election. This time, I'm not necessarily talking about Bernie Sanders, more in a roundabout manner. I'm speaking about Bernie Sanders. What I'm happy about today is the concept of the Berniecrats. And there is a website. It's called berniecrats.net, and I'll put it in the description below, the link, so you can get a first look at it yourself. Basically, the webmaster is providing a complete list of individuals who endorse Bernie Sanders and are active candidates for office. And so they're basically promoting a Bernie type progressive plan and philosophy. Like Bernie has said, he cannot do it alone. He is not the savior. We're not interested in any cult or personality. We're interested in issues. And so these are candidates who support Bernie type issues or agree with Bernie's platform and has spoken out in support of that or endorsed him. And again, there is a listing at berniecrats.net. And it's not about party affiliation. Some are Democrats, some are independent. All that information is included on the list of party affiliation, but it is about the issues. Because as we do know, there are independents, there are Democrats, there are Greens, and there may even be Libertarians or Republicans who support a Bernie platform. And so, based on their issues or their thinking or their mindset, and has spoken and openly voiced support of these issues, you might find them on this list. Also, their website, their Twitter, their Instagram, their Facebook, all that information, and then even some information about their endorsement. Certainly, there's information about whether they have already won their race. Or if their race is upcoming, because some of them are in races this summer, and we want to be aware of that. And you can also look for them by state too, because if they're in their if they're in your state and you're a Bernie supporter, definitely it's a good idea to look at the folks down ballot who also support Bernie, so we can get him some help at the local level, at the state level, and at the federal level to assist him with his policy agenda. Okay, so this page only includes people who are actively running for office. So people who are not in office but endorse Bernie, you're not going to find them there. These are people who are moving into the political arena, into elective office. Let's see. I'm gonna scroll down a little bit. And then if there's not a Berniecrat in your state, but this website recommends that you go to Blue America and use the Bernie Congress donation page through Act Blue. So there's a link on this website at the berniecrats.net website. It's called Blue America's Bernie Congress, because we want to make sure the Congress is blue, and not only blue, but that it's Bernie leaning blue. And then you can support candidates in other states through donations if there's not a Berniecrat in your state running for office. So basically, you'll find campaign websites of these potential office holders. You'll find like Twitter, Facebook, endorsement info, and then a graphic meme from @EndorseBernie. And there's no commonly held way or agreed way that they're setting the criteria. It's erring on the side of inclusion. Basically, they're recommending that you follow the links and research each candidate on the page in order to inform yourself of the the person's true philosophy and how much it agrees with Bernie and how much it agrees with you. So in states, let's see, they're starting in alphabetical order, and so there's a candidate in Alabama, for U.S. representative. He's Jesse T. Smith. Um, his primary date, it says, was March 1st. And so we don't know what the result was. I recommend that you follow that link. But interestingly enough, you go to the next state, with Arizona, there's 12 candidates. 12 candidates, Bernie-crats, in Arizona. There was a primary date, March 22nd, and then it lists the state primary date as August 30th. So that's when they'll be voting. August 30th in Arizona. You definitely want to know who the progressives are that we need to send into office to support Bernie and progressive agenda. And I'm not surprised that there's that many candidates coming out of Arizona, since there were the voting issues there and a lot of frustration. And so I think a lot of people have thrown their hats into the ring. If you're in Arizona, you might want to check them out. In California, there are 40 candidates, 40 progressive candidates running for various offices. Sometimes there are multiple Bernie-crats running for the same office, and so they do recommend that you follow the links and learn more and explore about each candidate just to see which one you support the most. The primary date is the same date as the presidential primary, which is June 7th. So you definitely want to be informed about what's going on in California. And I'm scrolling down past California because there's some other interesting candidates and interesting races from other states. Let's see if I can get there a little bit faster. In Colorado, there's 18 Bernie-crats, Bernie-leaning political candidates running for office. In Connecticut, there's 2. In Delaware, there's 2. In Florida, there's 13. 13 progressive candidates are running for office. The one most widely known right now is running for the infamous Debbie Wasserman Schultz's congressional seat. His name is Tim Canova, and he's done quite a bit of fundraising. He's going full tilt boogie for Debbie Wasserman Schultz's seat. He's running for the U.S. representative in Florida, the 23rd district. If you're not in Florida, but you really feel there needs to be a change of the guard, regardless, in case you vacation there, you can donate to his campaign by following the links from the BernieCrats.net website. In Georgia, there's 3. In Hawaii, there are 9 progressive candidates running for office. In Iowa, there's 4. And that primary voting is going to happen on June 7th. June 7th, there are 4 candidates in Iowa. In Illinois, there are 7 candidates. And then look very carefully when you scroll down this list. I went a little bit quickly, and so I nearly passed it up in Illinois. It does update whether the person won or lost the primary. In Illinois, Will Guzzardi won his primary election. That's one progressive. James Andrade won his primary election. And then Carol Ammons won her primary election. And then there's still a few more to go in Indiana. Let's see, there's an update. There were 3 losses in Indiana, and then 2 haven't been updated. In Kansas, there are 2 progressive running for office, and they have their election on August 2nd. In Kentucky, Kentucky is an interesting place. There were 5 candidates, And then on the 17th, they had their primary election. There was a writing candidate. His name is Larry Campbell, but I don't know the results. But there were one, two, three, four who actually lost their primary election. And we shouldn't lose heart because it's a growth process. I mean, even at the presidential level, we had progressive after progressive after progressive run for presidential office and then lose, but there will still remain a base of support, a structure, and organization that could be built upon for the next time. And so we come to Bernie Sanders, who has gone quite further than many others have. If you look at the number of states that he's won, the amount of money he's raised, the strong communication system he's built up over social networks, social media networks, he's come quite far. He's won a lot of delegates. He's competitive. He's been getting his message all across the United States out about progressive causes. So we start from, where we are, and then we keep going. In Maryland, there was a writing candidate. I don't know the results of that, but there were four who actually lost their primary campaigns. In Maine, there are 6 progressive candidates. In Michigan, there are 4 candidates. Minnesota has 10. And I'm smiling because it's thrilling me so much. Missouri, there are 14 congressional candidates in various offices at the state and local level. And then there's 2 that are running for Senate in Missouri. Their date for the election there is August 2nd. So the rest of this spring and summer, there's going to be a lot of action. In Montana, there's one candidate, and his primary date is going to be June 7th. In North Carolina, there are 7 progressive candidates. So these are all very worthwhile looking into. Scrolling really quickly past New Jersey, there's 10 running for office there. And we want to be aware of who they are, because if the choice comes down to voting down ballot, we want to make sure that we're choosing the candidate that will assist Bernie Sanders and the progressive platform the most. Not just a name only. There's a D by the name. As we all know, not all Democrats think the same. We want to make sure that the progressive candidate, if you're progressive leaning. In Nevada, there are 12 candidates progressive candidates running for office, and their primary date is June 14th. And so there are some states on here that are very significant. We've seen the past issues occur concerning elections and the procedures and rules and process, and that gets decided at the state and local level. So we want to make sure we know who the people are that are running for those offices and what their mindset is. And here we can see that there's plenty that are running with a progressive mindset. In New York, there are 15 progressive candidates who are running for office, and it looks like they have 2 dates. At the federal level for the representatives, their primary date is going to be June 28th in New York. And then at the state and local level, their primary election is going to be September 13th. So because New York was so controversial, definitely a good idea to keep those dates in mind and make sure that your registration is together. Oklahoma has 3 candidates, and then Oregon had 7 progressive candidates running for office, and one of them won. His name is Rob Noss. He won the state representative position of the 42nd district, and so he was an incumbent. The others did lose their primary races, but again, we see that what it takes is starting at the grassroots, getting the word out, setting a structure in place, and then building on support. And then the next time, who knows, we might see someone we really like in the office. Pennsylvania has 5 candidates. They've already voted. Carith Strano Taylor, he's a Democrat, won his election. He's a U.S. representative in the 5th district, which is exciting. We celebrate whenever we can. In South Carolina, there are 9 progressive candidates running for office, and they include U.S. representatives, on down, and they're voting on June 14th. And don't want to go through all of them, but it's just fascinating to me that all across America, no matter if it's every corner, it seems like there are progressive candidates throwing their hat into the ring. In Texas, which already had its vote, Bill Mata, he's the U.S. representative of Texas from the 17th district. He won his primary election. And then Tom Wakely, U.S. representative of Texas in the 21st district, won his election. And then John Floyd and Alex Mendoza, both also state representatives, they won their primary elections. So as we can see, there's still some voting has already occurred, and then we've had successes. We had some losses, but then we've seen quite a few progressive candidates have been winning their elections. They've gotten support, they've gotten funds, they've gotten their message out. Bernie Sanders created quite a large tailwind that caught the interest of supporters who went and supported those progressive candidates, and they've been winning. And so for the rest who are in races still yet to come, for instance, in Utah, there are 13 progressive candidates on the ballot for June 28th. And they include Misty Snow, she's a Democrat. She's running for U.S. Senate. Destiny Clifford, she's running for the U.S. representative of the 4th district. And then there are local races, the state representatives at the local level also running. County commissioner in Virginia, there are 3 candidates. They're voting on June 14th. In Vermont, not surprisingly, there are 6 candidates. They'll be voting on August 9th, and they include everything from U.S. representative to governor, lieutenant governor, state representative, and then in Washington state, there are 24 candidates who are progressive that are running for office. U.S. Senate on down, U.S. Senate, and then U.S. representative, down to state and local races. And so it's happening. It's already happening. In Wisconsin, there are 6 progressive candidates. They will be voting on August 9th. In West Virginia, there are 9 candidates. They've already had their primary election, and they've been winning. In West Virginia, progressives. Mike Mennipenny won as U.S. representative of West Virginia, the 1st district. There's been some losses, but Bradley Van Zyl won his primary election, state senate of the 3rd district. David Manthos, state senate of the 16th. Oh, actually, Sean Flaherty, state representative of West Virginia, the 3rd district, won. So there's been wins, there's been losses, but all across America. And then Wyoming, there's 1 candidate. Charles Pelkey, he's running for state representative. He's an incumbent, and they'll be voting there on August 16th. We want to make sure that we're supporting the progressive candidate. We don't want to leave anything to chance, even though they are incumbent. We want to make sure that a large swath of support carries them into office, at the state and the local levels, and then to Washington, to where they can help take care of Bernie, take care of us, and help get policy agendas passed. At the end of this web page, it kind of outlines the Bernie crack candidates in each state. In the states of Alaska, Arkansas, Washington, D.C., Idaho, Louisiana, Mississippi, and New Mexico, they don't have a candidate who is a progressive listed running for office. It might be that the webmaster will get some more information and we discover that there is a candidate who's engaged in a contest, but as it stands, it doesn't look like they have information on a progressive candidate running for office from one of those states. And so if you do know of progressives that are, if you look at that list, you go to bernietracks.net, you look at that list and you know of someone who is running for office or is thinking about running for office, you might want to ask them to submit their information. You can send a tweet to at Bernie2016 yes, to get your name added and to update the webmaster. But it's exciting for me to see this sea change all across the United States. The message has gone out that we need to move forward. We don't need to look back to the 90s, and we certainly don't need to stand still. We need to move forward and set a progressive agenda and get some wonderful things done to make America exceptional. And we need to look and see who's leading the charge and everyone get in where we fit in to help move America forward. We all have a role. And as Bernie says, he is not the savior. He is not the cult of personality. Change starts at the bottom and then goes up. So we all can join in and feel the burn.